I've got friends. I've interacted with few of them, but with Ravi and with Sanjay, I'm interacting for the first time. So Sanjay, Ravi, thank you very much. Thank you for being part of Voyage, and thank you for joining us. I
Thank
look
you.
forward to an engagement and an interaction. So Jignesh bhai, let's start with what you always say. Mutual fund sahi hai.
Yeah.
So Jignesh bhai, my question is, in last 1 year, we have perhaps seen everything what investor only witnesses.
Sir, your voice is cracking. Can't hear you.
Is my voice switching to now?
No.
Okay, let me. Why don't you hit
Yeah,
a
yeah.
mute?
Now I'm fine. Yeah. I can hear.
Jignesh, I like to use a line which I've read from Lenin, which is that there are decades where nothing changes, and there is a year when a decade changes. I'll say that there are decades when nothing changes, but there is sometimes a year when a decade changes. And in last 12 months, we can see the change all around us. What, to your mind, is a permanent change for the mutual fund industry?
Yeah. No, I think the change can't be permanent. Change is the only permanent thing. So things will definitely going to change. But what we have seen and what we learned in last couple of months is the value and the importance of the asset allocation. I think people are looking at market in absolute terms, but they don't look at their goals. And I think this is the time wherein we need to revisit our goals. We need to get into a science behind the asset allocation. We cannot ignore that was just investing randomly. I think this is another period where I think there is an opportunity for investor to learn and to follow the asset allocation and to invest scientifically rather than just following your emotion.
So, what is your asset allocation model Jignesh, by telling investors? Because in March, April, it was clearly go overweight equities, but after 100% run up, what is your model indicating?
See, there are two things. One is you can do asset allocation based on your own profile and based on your risk appetite. And one is the market link asset allocation, where probably is ranging from 60 to 80% towards the equity and probably 20 to 30% towards the debt. I think within this range and the kind of period you have set for rebalancing is also going to be a very, very critical aspect.
Sanjay, on a daily basis, we ideate, debate, discuss, and deliberate that why asset allocation is the only reason, is perhaps the most important factor in which 80% of the wealth is created. But why do you think this is still the most overlooked aspect by an investor?
I think your voice is cracking, Nikunj. Again, can you just ask the question again? Sorry.
I'm so sorry. No, my question to you, Sanjay, is very simple. That we all know, and we perhaps debate and we'll discuss it also in today's panel, that asset allocation is responsible for 80% of the wealth you create. You have to have that asset allocation.
Yes.
Yet, what is the most fundamental principle of investing is often ignored the most. People always swing between only equity or only debt. In India, I always say that Indians either do FD or they do FNO. बीच का कुछ नहीं होता है.
So I think the biggest point would be people don't look at the all asset together when they review their portfolio, and I think that is the biggest issue. So probably if you look at the mutual fund, these are the most liquid assets. So probably the people might be investing in the mutual funds only the let's say the equity side of the investment, and rest all other assets might they've looked at into other baskets. So when they look at the overall portfolio, I think what is important I understand from the client perspective would be they should always look at the total portfolio and the allocation to all the basket outside mutual fund also. If they start looking at the overall portfolio allocations, and I think asset allocation is the key. Probably that's very, very paramount because it's always the greed or the emotions which takes away your investment psychology and buying the best performing funds without looking at the volatility. I think these are the major issues. So asset allocation is key, but following asset allocation on the total portfolio, leave alone only the mutual fund. That is probably going to be the major factor.
Ravi, share with us an anecdote or an experience of what have you communicated to your client when you started getting panic calls when markets were falling. How did you tell them this is the time to buy more? Because I'm sure when you see your portfolio falling by 30-40%, it's not a great feeling. See, in today's digital world, when clients call up, Ravi must be on mute, right? That is a good way of ignoring, right, Ravi? So you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, there I go. Good evening. Thanks. A great question, Nikunj. I think what is more important at that point in time is to be in touch with your customer. I think that's the most critical element. That during those days, how often are you in touch with the customer? And when you are in contact with the customer, I think the most important thing is to assuage and go back to the principles with which you did that asset allocation. And the whole idea is that as we all say, and it's a universal truth, that when you get into equity, you do that as an owner and not as a trader, and therefore you take a longer view. Obviously, it is also based on, as Sanjay Bhai said, it's also, or Jignesh Bhai said, that it is also based on the profile of the customer with whom you are dealing. So if it's a profile of a customer who is willing to go with your thought process in terms of putting more money when the markets are in a little volatile period, then you assist in giving them the better thought process on the nature of assets. And those who are not willing, you keep reminding them that what was the principle with which you came into this, and maybe it's time to kind of hunker down and look at that principle in purity. I think that's the way it is. But ultimately, it is about conversations. It is about ensuring that you are available for your customers during those volatile periods. I think that's the way we went about it, and that's what I would always advise.
Vijay, a simple question. How, to your mind, the world has changed for the mutual fund industry because of pandemic?
Yeah, thanks, Nikunj. Pleasure to be here on the show this evening. I would believe a lot has changed. The manner in which we are living today is vastly different from how we were living a few quarters back. We would probably be sitting in a studio doing this kind of a chat. We are all doing it from our respective locations and all coming together and creating some content. Value is getting created sitting remotely, which was not the way it was happening. And I think this power that we are able to communicate remotely, we are able to actually create value sitting vastly far away from each other, has given a very, I would say, a unique way in which we can access customers compared to what we were able to access or we thought we could access in the past. That physicality was very much part of life. I think the biggest shift that has happened is the entire process of acquiring customers, the entire process of reaching out to customers has become remote, digital, and it has given an enormous power to this industry. One of the biggest challenges that come in the way of growth of this industry is education and literacy, financial literacy. Reaching out across the length and breadth of the country is not so easy. But I think the fact that now people are become a lot more accepting of this kind of a medium, remote training, remote communications, remote investor education sessions, I think all of these are possible, which is giving people and investors, potential investors, access to information, access to knowledge, and therefore confidence and capability to access the markets through the mutual fund. So I think it's been epochal and a very big sort of a leap that has come in front of us for this industry, and it is for all of us as industry players to take advantage of this kind of discontinuity that has come in behavior of everyone and put it to full use and full advantage for the growth of this industry. I think the ball is squarely on our court to take it to the board.
Vijay, it may be unfortunate, but if I look at the ownership of Indian markets, foreigners own more equity, more own Indian equities more than what actually Indians currently own. We are one of the biggest market in the world, but if I frankly look at the number of mutual fund accounts we have, that number is meaningless looking at the size of the market and the size of the population. Why is that?
One of the biggest, like I said, one of the biggest reasons is just absence of familiarity. We may be literate in larger numbers, but when it comes to financial literacy, I think we still lag quite a bit. No school, no college, no place of formal education actually has a program on financial literacy. It's very unfortunate. So even the most literate people are quite, I would say, lagging behind when it comes to familiarity and knowledge of markets, knowledge of financial aspects of investment, savings, all of that. So I think that is one of the main reasons why the fear factor or the speed breaker comes in the way of growth. With the growth and proliferation of social media, access to information so freely now, there is again leapfrogging of a trend which is happening in terms of growth in this kind of knowledge and education. So I'm pretty optimistic if we are able to sort of cover this moat of knowledge, information, and access. There would be a dramatic and then big growth that is waiting to happen in this field. I also believe that at the point at which we are as a country and as an economy, it's a very interesting stage in terms of per capita income GDP. It's probably at a point when every incremental growth leads to dramatic flows of money into financial assets. There is a behavior shift. There's an interesting point of economic position that we are in. There is a promise of growth momentum over the next few years. And then there is also another very interesting phenomena taking place. We have digital natives, the Gen Z, so to speak, who I call them digital natives. A large population, these are the guys who are actually one batch junior to the millennials. Unlike the millennials who are technologically savvy, but they are still not digital natives the way the Gen Z is. The Gen Z is now coming into an age of economic ownership. They're beginning to start earning. The first of the batch of the Gen Z, so to speak, is today 24 years old. There are about 1.6 crore such individuals coming into that kind of a phase of life. They think differently, they are wired differently, and by next year you'll have another 1.6 crores. Year after that, another 1.6 crores. So you have a deluge of supply coming. So I'm pretty optimistic that the changes that have happened is probably going to have a discontinuous kind of a opportunity for the industry in front of us.
I'd like to share this with all our panelists and with the attendees here, is that if you look at Jignesh Bhai, he's always smiling. And I said, Bhai, aisa kyun hai ki Jignesh Bhai hamesha haste hain? He said, when a client comes to me and when he's starting a SIP, मैं उसके बगल में उसके बच्चे का फोटो लगा देता हूँ, और जब वो रिडीम करने आता है तो मैं बोलता हूँ तो बच्चे के लिए अगर ले रहा है तो क्यों रिडीम कर रहा है, राइट जिग्नेश भाई?
करेक्ट, एब्सोल्युटली.
बट उसके अंदर अपनी वाइफ का फोटो कभी नहीं लगाते हैं क्लाइंट का.
नहीं, पूरी फैमिली का लगा देते हैं.
So Jignesh bhai, tell us about this SIP culture. When you look at SIP, it's a very proud number that despite market volatility, the SIPs have been strong. What category of investors currently are opening SIPs? Is there an understanding with the young millennial audience? Are they thinking in terms of years and decades now? Or the millennial is still interested in today, tomorrow?
Yeah. So I think broad-based people are investing into SIP, irrespective of the category. But I think the most important factor in terms of penetration of the mutual fund as a category and in particular SIP and in particular small cities. If we take that as a landscape, I think first and foremost thing is you need a very good brigade of distributors. I think what we realize in this difficult time frame and we are still getting the SIP. I think thanks to the distributors and the small distributors, they are talking to the investor, they are supporting investor in bad times, and they are showing the numbers, the past performance, the past casualty and all. And I think that is one of the major factor to get the investor confidence. And thanks to even media and thanks to some of the social media platform also, that they are providing good information to the investor. And once they get those information from the media, and then again he's one of the known person or a relative or a friend as a distributor talking in the same language, that has a multiplier effect, and that boosts the confidence of the investors.
If one thing has changed in the pandemic crisis is that for the first time, people on public forums are acknowledging good things about media. Thank you very much, Jignesh bhai. I'm sure Sanjay will have the same things to say. But Sanjay, the problem is that the mutual fund investor is still restricted to major cities. We are talking about India becoming digital. We are talking about India becoming more and more adaptability in terms of technology. Why is that mutual fund penetration has not gone beyond few cities?
I think, Nikunj, it's very, very important because let's say today, if you look at the mutual fund as a product has become absolutely very, very transparent, very, very competitive. And if you look at the kind of option which is available in the mutual fund is very, very huge. But still the penetration level is very, very low. So I believe I think the one single most important reason would be you don't have the large pool of advisors or the distributors on the ground who will touch base the investors and explain them. Because I think the investment is a subject which requires a lot of hand-holding of the customer, explaining them, doing some kind of, let's say, the advisory, I think, counseling them and bringing them to the investment stage. So if you want the industry to go from, let's say, metro to tier 2 towns, or let's say going even beyond B30 to B100 plus kind of a town, we require a large number of distributors. And you already touched base that point initially that we have just touched the surface as far as investors are concerned. There are hardly about 2.5 crore investors, and in last 2-3 years, if you look at it, almost 3 crore new PAN filers has came into the industry. So there are 3 crore people who has filed a income tax return for the first time. So I think easily industry can add 1 crore, 2 crore investors every year. But for that, we require a lot of people to reach out. So if you look at in the today's context, either you can reach out them through technology or you can reach out them through physical mode. So when it comes to investment, finally you are parting with your money. And when you are parting with your money, some kind of counseling, some kind of advice would be necessary. So today, if you look at fintech players are playing a good role of just creating the awareness about the investment as a product. But finally, you need somebody who has to consult. So my belief is that if you want to go very, very deep, I think the first thing which is required by the regulator, by us, everybody to see to it that there's a large number of players who are on the ground to explain this product. That is the first foremost reason. And second, probably my belief is that we are about 20 lakh or 30 lakh crore industry, and we are trying at the 150 lakh crore of fixed deposit. So probably we have to look at the very, very simplification of the product, and the onboarding also has to be very, very smooth. So I think first requirement would be, I think entire KYC process has to be very, very smooth. There are multiple levels of KYC has been done. If we can use the bankers database and bankers plan for easy onboarding, I think that will solve a lot of problems. That is first thing. Second thing, probably my belief is that you have to just make sure that the product are very, very simple, because you are targeting the bank customers. So the product has to be very, very simple and easy to understand. There should not be a lot of volatility and a lot of what you call the ups and downs in the return. If you give them easy onboarding experience with a very low volatility and a FD plus kind of return, I'm sure these people will hook to the investments of the mutual fund for a long period of time. I think these are the two basic things are required on the ground, and giving them a very easy onboarding and the easy product for them to invest in. I think these are very, very, very crucial point for the success.
Ravi, I want you to perhaps help the attendees understand that why do we have such a divergence right now? Markets at an all-time high, Demat accounts are opening, but domestic institutional investors are also selling, which means the redemptions at the mutual fund level also high. Now, typically what happens is when markets go higher, the FOMO kicks in. But right now, that FOMO is not there. In fact, on every uptick, investors are selling. Why is that?
No, I think probably or possibly the reasons are, anchored around the country and how it is perceived. I think that's from a domestic and a foreign, kind of a comparison. The fact that the country is looking at a 5 trillion US economy, the fact that there is a growth stimulus which has been kind of initiated, I think the growth path that the country is showing is very strong and robust. This resurgence is being looked at by global monies, global funds, right? So that inflow is being made attractive by the Indian story, the narrative which is there. And we must also understand at the same time that the US bond yields, for example, and the earnings yield of India, there is a huge gap. So there is, in terms of money flows getting attracted towards the country. And obviously that results in the philosophy that you are, talking about in terms of selling versus the movement towards the foreign holdings and so on and so forth. So I think it is, these are good indicators for the country at large. And I think if we were to bring in all of these elements in terms of being able to create a better understanding, a better education for retail investors, I think this combination would really play out very well in terms of the growth prospects of the market, of the economy, and the participation by the domestic players at the granular retail level. I think that's the key.
So, Nikunj, if I may, just add a little texture to what Ravi just said. I think Ravi lucidly explained the flow of foreign money into the country, and your question really hinged upon why is it so contrasting against the domestic flows. So, when you try and get behind the flows and get into the textures of this flow, it's a very interesting sort of outcome that you come out with. It's actually retail, the pure mass retail. If you were to divide the segment of customers into retail, mass app, and the HNI, it's actually the upper end of mass app and HNI who are booking profits out. They are taking money out. There's good flows which is coming from the retail. So it's a very interesting trend. The FOMO part you said, yeah, many people are coming into the markets. That explains why demat accounts are getting opened. That explains why the B30 towns that even Sanjay was explaining is growing very, very well. But it's the HNI segment which is actually booking profits and taking out. Whatever be the sort of, it appears that they are less optimistic as a category as compared to the retail investors and perhaps the foreign funds, or at least they took a view that things are going to take longer to heal, but probably caught on the wrong foot. Their little bit of cautiousness turned out against them. Perhaps I think that seems to be the trend. Otherwise, retail, the pure retail, the mass retail is still showing flows. It's pretty strong there.
Fair point. Jignesh bhai, in today's world, all of us have access to information and sometimes too much of information. Do you think today the investor has much more information and is much more confused? Because sometimes there is too much of information, you don't know what is right for you, what is wrong for you. What is your understanding of the investor's mindset in today's digital world?
What you are saying is absolutely correct. I think the urban investors are more confused than the investors from the smaller cities. And generally, what we have seen, the trend even in the times of pandemic, I think the lot of monies are coming from the let's say B200, B300 kind of cities. And we have never heard those names of those villages. And there are small distributors, those who started their business and they are opening up 50 accounts, 70 accounts, 80 accounts. And simply our focus is to provide them a simple information, power of compounding, goal-based investing, and the power of SIP. And that works very well. So I think if you have a reliable, smart kind of a distributors, and if he is managing 50, 60 customers, then probably that is the model which, according to me, will work very well. But otherwise, I think, yes, the information flow is huge as of now, wherein there is a probability to get confused.
Sanjay, since we are talking about decades here, that's the theme of this year's voyage. We are in 2021. How do you see the mutual fund industry changing in 3 years and 5 years? 10 years, we'll all be speculating, so I don't know.
So I think, Nikunj, I see an enormous potential for the growth because if you look at everything is falling in line when it comes to the investment in the mutual fund. Because if you look at today, I think if you look at last year, I was just going through one CAMS report. I think there are some 35 lakh new investors came in 18-19. Out of that, 50% were the millennials. So the point is the number of investors who are coming to the fold now, they are all new generational investors. What he talked about, which also called Gen X or Gen Y. So I think if you look at these all the people, I think they are very, very smart, and once they have looked at the mutual fund as a product, I see there is a strong participation which is going to come from them. So I think just wanted to say that today I think India has everything falling in line. You have the best digital infrastructure, you have the mobile connectivity, you have the two-factor authentication, you have the super payment ecosystem, and today if you look at the investing options, I think thanks to the government, they have taken the inflation as a target and the growth as the impetus. So we believe that the interest rate will remain low for a pretty long period of time. So the investment option has been just coming down to a very minimal level, and in that format, when the mutual fund or other investment in the financial field are easy to be onboarded or easy to be invested, I think growth potential will be enormous. So I feel everything is falling in line. On one side, you have the digital infrastructure. On another side, you have the technology-savvy investor. And on third side, you have a very low penetration level. All three things put together, if you look at, I see easily 25-30% CAGR growth of the industry. So I think AMFI has taken a target that the industry should reach to 100 lakh crore by another 5 to 6 years. I believe that is easily achievable. The 100 lakh crore industry from 30 lakh crore now in next 5-6 years, that is something which is we all should work towards, and we should all have that kind of a dream for the industry to reach.
Great. Ravi, let's talk about technology and disruption. Every industry has got disrupted. Financial industry is no different. In fact, looking at the valuations of the fintech, there is more and more disruption coming here. So Ravi, how do you see the mutual fund industry getting disrupted, and what will not get disrupted?
I'll stick to the fact that change is constant. Technology is merely an enabler. And I think nobody envisaged what would happen 2 years back. And some of the panelists mentioned about, social media in terms of abetting and aiding the understanding of mutual funds. At the same time, a lot of fintechs coming in terms of creating platforms by which they could get, let's say, the cohort of millennials into looking at investing in mutual funds. I think technology is something which each player, and not just the mutual fund industry, but financial intermediation as a industry should look merely as how to create customer experience and customer service delight. Having stated that, I think for mutual funds, KYC, the ability to do transactions, the ability to come into a transaction on the go, all of this is very important. Let me just give you a factoid. In our own branch network, which is about 4,600 odd of them, the B30 transactions are now 55% this year as compared to what it was earlier. So a bulk of the transactions had moved to, and more than 1/3 of the transactions are online. So how is this possible? Technology. It's not as if you want to really put technology in the face of customers, but the form factor or the alternatives or the choices you give to the customer is more important, and you ensure that you are able to promote the safety and security of these technology so that there is a sense of adoption as a behavior for the retail granular customers. And I think it was alluded by Jignesh Bhai also in terms of the fact that one is surprised by the participation from some of these really upcountry, rural, semi-urban centers. I think it is because of the fact that a distributor or an agent is, having that information to be able to disseminate to these customers and these new prospects. So that is also technology. I think sometimes we consider technology to be really those, science fiction ones. That's not the case. Technology is anything which enables transactions to be conducted seamlessly and frictionlessly at the choice of time and place of the customer. And anything that aids and abets that is an enabling technology. That's the way I would look at it. And mutual fund is definitely, as an industry, as a segment, benefiting in leaps and bounds.
Vijay, this is perhaps for the broader audience. We have a lot of attendees here, or distributors who are investors. But I'm going to take the next question, pointing towards some of our distributor friends who are partners with Aditya Birla Mutual Fund. What is different about Aditya Birla Mutual Fund that you like and you don't like?
No, I think it's a great fund house. It's very respected. They have, I would say, a very strong presence and particularly the equity side. And this is something that has been demonstrated over the last, I would say, over the last decade. That, when I trace back, I think it's been one of the most consistent performers. And it is uniquely the only, I would say, non-banking mutual fund house, which has been in the top 5 in terms of, what they do in the market consistently for 10 years. It's nobody has been able to sort of hold that kind of a fort. Doing it without having the support of a distribution, muscle of a bank, it speaks for the quality, strength of the franchise. So I think consistency, strong equity proposition sort of track record, and very, I would say, investor friendly and partner friendly frameworks and policies. What has ensured that they stand out, that they've been able to stand shoulder to shoulder with a banking-based or any bank-based distribution house and remain in the pack of the top 5 for a decade. So I would believe those are some of the things which Birla stands out for.
I'm going to put Jignesh Bhai once again in the spot. He's such a dear friend that I sometimes like to trouble him even on public forums. I would Ravi from Axis Bank, they have an AMC. I would Vijay, who also represents a bank which has an AMC. So if you have to say which is the best fund, Birla, Axis, ISEC, ICICI, True, how will you choose? Jignesh Bhai. You're a neutral.
Yeah, we love the industry actually. We love the mutual fund.
ये तो भाई ऐसा नहीं चलेगा.
No. If you ask me the same question in a different way, how the Birla is different, then probably it's better for me to answer.
No, I'm asking you again in case you missed the question.
No. Birla is very dear to us, and we have a spiritual CEO with us in Birla. So we have a very high regards for Bala. And my mother actually invested 2,000 rupees in the NFO of Birla 26 years back. So we have an emotional attachment with that as an investor as well. And it's our what I can't say more words about it, but it's an amazing relationship. And it was an amazing journey with the entire Birla family since last 26 years.
It's a fine team, and personally for me, I always say that these are fine
amazing
professionals. I have personally worked with. Bala is such a dear friend that it's absolutely amazing to work with him.
And Bala is a divine guy, divine person.
Sumit, we should get Bala on the call now that people are saying so many good things about him.
Let me try and see if we can patch him in.
Okay, Sanjay, you actually want me to ask a question or you've already thought of the answer? Because you know what I'll ask you.
No, I absolutely echo the everybody's view because it's a fantastic team. I can tell you we are in the business of managing clients' money through them. So the fund performance is something which is up and down, and that's something which is not in anybody's control. But over a period of time, if you look at, they've been offering the fantastic bouquet of the product. And most important part for the distributor is the relationship, how you carry along with them. So it's a very strong relationship, very old, very deep-rooted, starting from top. I think Bala, what Jignesh said, is somebody who is easily approachable for any of the smallest of the thing. So I think that is always gives you comfort. The team is very, very strong, very, very loyal to the Birla. And I can tell you a lot of guys in Ahmedabad, for example, the guy who is managing the show here, he's been there for almost now 15, 16, 17 years. So if the relationship is very, very deep rooted, that is something which gives you a comfort. So I think I think absolutely I'm telling you this by heart that it's a very good team to deal with. That's we really enjoy with that.
Yeah.
Right. It's the relationship, it's the team, it's the process, it's the methodology and the consistency, which are the key words in case, as somebody did not use the word consistency, I would say more than relationship, consistency and process are two important things which really matter a lot.
True.
Now, my next question is coming to you, Vijay, which is that everybody on the panel is talking about the importance of understand your client. Know your client, understand the need of the client. Just like one shoe does not fit all, एक जूता का size सब जूते का size सबका अलग होता है. How do you think this entire customer experience will change in today's algorithm-dominated world? Today there are sites, there are advisors. They give you a form. They understand you not by conversation, but they understand you in front of a computer screen. How do you see that entire engagement changing, Vijay?
So, with new comers coming into the market, who are used to doing stuff themselves, reading up themselves, these are the guys who are wanting to do it in their format, not necessarily the format that is coming to you at their time. So I think to harness that capability, you have to use technology. And today we have seen that when you marry technology with analytics, you can create very interesting tools. And these tools can help a customer translate certain English questions into an action which throws in form of a recommendation which suits the stuff that he has answered. So English questions in form of what he wants to achieve, what his objectives are, what his timeframes are, what is the kind of goals that he's looking for, and outcomes recommendation based on his risk appetite using technology and algorithm. It comes out in a pop. All he needs to do is go through details if he wishes to. If he doesn't wish to go any further details, he can just start investing. Many of such tools are getting made, I know. We have already, for example, on our platform offer a very interesting proposition called one-click investment, where thematic combinations of funds are actually put together at one click. It could be based on his goals, or it could be based on his themes. So the best fund managers in large cap, for instance, is one basket. Want to own a house in 5 years is another basket. Retirement in 10 years is another basket. So depending on what his goals are, what his preferences are, what his sort of appetite is in terms of risk, Algo's technology is capable of converting it. And what is interesting is it gets done his time. You don't have to actually go take an appointment with him and all that stuff that happens in the physical world. He does it when he feels like, maybe in the middle of the night, maybe on a Saturday evening, or on a lazy Sunday afternoon. So that's the way I think things are changing going forward.
Ravi, what should be an edge for someone who is essentially not associated with large platforms, does not have access to technology? Because that, do you think, is a differentiating factor now?
So let me try and, since it is Bala's forum, so let me try and work with Bala's philosophy. So let me quote from Upanishad to answer your question. Akashat patitam toyam yatha gacchati sagaram, which means that, when rain falls, ultimately it goes to the sea. So ultimately, the way we are looking at engaging with these customers, as technology is merely a medium. Ultimately, I think it is about engaging a customer with conversations, getting into discussions, and to be able to create an emotive connect. Because, like Jignesh Bhai said, and I think your question earlier, Nikunj, to Jignesh was that you put a snap of the child or the snap of the family. I think mutual fund is all about creating financial stability. It's wealth, yes, of course, why not? But it is also about creating a financial pool for yourself for the future. So, having said that, if you are able to logically take forward the discussion and the conversation, technology, whether it is available or not available, I don't think that's as important. So let me try and give you, a sense in an arithmetic manner. If you are doing based on AI, like Vijay was saying, it will give you, production. As in, it will continue to give you certain, numbers, but the ticket sizes will be of a certain profile. The moment you get into conversations and engagement, the ticket sizes substantially go up. And that's the difference. Technology, if it is embellished with conversation, with discussions, I think it serves the purpose of what the customer is looking for, which is financial pool creation as well as wealth creation. I think that's the way I would go about answering that question.
Sanjay, this point perhaps needs some deliberation and discussion. But in today's tech world, what should be the edge for experts?
No, I think I'll agree with Ravi very, very precisely, because today we all think that investment is a one-time process. Investment is a one-day process. So the once client is invested through some technology platform, I think matters came to an end. I think the technology is precisely, it's an enabler. It will guide you. But today I can tell you, आज मुझे भी मेरा investment करते वक्त I want somebody to be asked. See, if the technology has given you certain solution, you want to go and ask somebody, सही है ना, लगा दो ना पैसा यहाँ पर. I think that is something which is a missing element, where you want somebody to handhold, somebody to tell that you are on the right path. That is first thing. And once you invested, then after the actual story starts. Because the investment process definitely requires that when you identify the funds, when you come to asset allocations, when you decide the funds, and when you invest, I think that is where the entire story starts. Then after the emotional management and the behavioral aspect comes in. Because today you invest based on particular arithmetic, but after a particular point of time, when you want to invest additional money, and out of that basket, one fund has not performed better, the customer might come and say, "Yaar, isme mujhe nahi lagana because this fund is not doing better." And that is where I say, so my belief is that the good mixture of technology and the physical advice, or any advice, I'm not saying physical, it could be a human touch by way of telecommunications, by way of phone call, counseling, but some kind of advisory element with a soft voice would be very, very essential. And so because probably robot might take up everything today, but we believe that robot will not be able to do personal management, creativity, or thinking beyond the point. I think that is where my belief is that we have to invest significantly in the technology, arrive at some conclusion, but that has to be validated by the human being.
Okay, last round of questions. I started with a quote from Lenin. Let me go to a quote which I often refer to, and that's from Jeff Bezos. We tend to focus on what will change, but let's focus on what will not change. The customer always wants better advice. He always wants it cheap. So, Jignesh bhai, what do you think will not change for the customer in this decade?
No, I think customer expectation will not change.
Would you like to elaborate on that?
No, I think I think the entire debate is on how to handle the emotion of the customer and the role of technology. I think technology is very, very important and very critical when it comes to transaction. But when it comes to advice, I think distributor is really in a role of a psychiatrist. And when he goes to the family and he talks about investments, then I think the only returns and the only numbers doesn't work. I think the investment is associated with their long-term goal, and investment is associated with the lot of emotion of the family, wherein the return, the expectation of investors sometimes is irrational. And then there is a huge role of a distributor to manage those emotions, manage those sentiments, and to get into a rational sort of a investment. So I think this is a continuous process, and I don't think that investor behavior will change. And we have to do the same boring activities again and again. Go and talk to the investors and talk to the same language we were just talking since last 25 years, and next 25 years the same thing will going to happen.
Ravi?
Let me try and give you an example of insurance. There are 22 lakh agents, roughly, give or take, and we have 1 lakh ARN holders, distributors in the mutual fund space. Over the last 1 decade, the mutual fund AUM grew roughly about 15-16%, if I'm not too mistaken, and the insurance AUM grew about 11 or 12%. But the insurance agents thrive. They continue to build. You ask anybody, he is keen to become an insurance agent, but I don't find people who want to be mutual fund ARN holders, right? So I think that's the opportunity which is there. Couldn't agree more with Jignesh bhai. Customers' expectations will always be there. I mean, the role of a customer is to expect.
Right.
And I think those aspirations will always be there, because please remember that we are creating financial pools of stability, here financial wealth for the customer. So he always wants that to accrete, to become positive, to keep summing up, growing. And I think what we are looking for from the industry side is to, try and have some playing field which is equal. Otherwise, you have one ARN holder to possibly, 20,000 customers. Impossible to create any kind of a platform to give sanity in the distribution advice, if I may use that phrase. So I think it is important that we continue to look at what will not change as the fact that we need to grow this industry more and more, because the opportunities will not change. Opportunities are huge. That's the way I would put it.
Vijay, let's get your thoughts on something which is cool.
Yeah, from an investor point of view, I think two things are not going to change. Number one, his expectation of returns from his investment. He's always had expectations, right, wrong, as Jignesh bhai said. Rational, irrational, you can argue, but the expectation is not going to go away, even 10 years from now, 20 years from now. The other thing that he will continue to keep seeking is advice, whatever form, what is he to do, what kind of handholding is required. It could be technology-led, it could be partially technology-led, or it could be fully human-led. But I think that expectation of advice from time to time is something that he will continue to expect.
Sanjay, what will be the important stock market tips?
Can you come again, please? Can you come again? There's echo.
No, I'm saying that a word which we often use in markets is called tip, not sip. We should be focusing on sip more than tip. Do you think that will change the importance of free advice?
I don't think, because I think finally it's a human behavior which is very, very difficult to change over a period of time. And we have been seeing this from a mature market like US. We have been reading all the reports that the people are fighting against the hedge fund and just without applying any mind, just buying particular stocks. So I think if you look at the behavior of a mature investor in a mature market, it is still, I think, the erratic. My belief is over a period of time, as you become more and more intervened, you get more and more information. I think the people's behavior will be more erratic, but will be more matured also. So there are, I think you can understand that the importance of true advisor, true distributor who will handhold them will also increase significantly. But the client's expectations on the return side will also. Today I was just talking to somebody and somebody said that on the fintech platform, 50% of the money is going into international equities. So I think that is again showing that people are buying just last 1 year, 2 year, 3 year return. I'm not saying whether the US equity will do great or the Nasdaq will perform or not, but today you are buying only returns, and that is the behavior of the guy, and that is where the role of advisor will become. So I think there are two things which will not change. I think the behavior of the investor and the importance of the distributor stroke advisor. So these are two things which is permanent. I think you might say anything around this. These are which is very, very permanent.
Okay, so we started with a comment from Jignesh Bhai. On a lighter note, I'm going to add with him, finish with him also. So Jignesh Bhai, let me merge the word tip and sip. For those who need a tip to start the sip, what is your advice?
Tip is the biggest tip.
Biggest tip, yeah. Well said, well said.
I think that's the point which I've been trying to bring out. All of us have been trying to bring out that don't time the markets, time your goals. If you are the more money is made by spending time in the market rather than timing the market. The biggest risk in a bull market is that if you do not participate. And just to wrap it up with one example which I often give, in last 20 years or 22 years of my career, I have covered assassinations, famines, financial crisis, the current pandemic. But trust me, the day I joined the television industry, which was on 9th of Jan 2000, the index was nowhere close, even 4,000. And today we are standing tall at 55,000. That is the ability of human courage, human spirit, and the potential of financial markets. They always surprise you. They always come. Thanks for giving a lot of tips and tips. Thank you very much. Ravi, never met you in person. Look forward to that engagement. Vivek,
Yeah.
I look forward to meeting you soon. And Sanjay, what a lovely speaker you've been. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Sir.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikunj. A
Looking forward
pleasure.
to connect with you. Thank you.